Welcome back to another edition of the B4evaKool podcast. My name is Fortyfive, and we on the Vroom Wednesday, where we get to talk about World Superbike, MotoGP, Moto America, club racing. The first round of MotoGP just happened, and we're going to be getting caught up with all that fun stuff with the gang tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in as always, and please continue to like and subscribe and comment. I want to shout out my sponsors, Freedom Cycles and also Workbench Technology. With no further ado, let's start to bring people in. TJ, what's going on? Welcome to the show, man. How you doing tonight on a Wednesday night? I see you got the 43 hat on. He looking good out there, man. How you doing?
What's going on, Rexy? I can't complain. I'm happy. You know, bikes are out on the track now. Season's here. Fortunately, still in the Northeast. It's still a little cold. A lot of sand is out there. A lot of potholes. The bike's not ready to get on the street yet, but I'm almost there.
You know, I was up there over the weekend, and I did see somebody out on a bike, and I was cheering for them because I remember the days when I used to pull the bike out, and I had the heated gear on because I know up that way after September Labor Day, it's like a ghost town for motorcycles.
I would say, I mean, there are some bikes out there. I've seen a few Harleys, the smaller bikes, I would say. But if I wasn't riding on the track, I mean, I'm sure like a nice warm day that we had today. I mean, it was 50 degrees, so we call that warm right now. But I'm sure I would have took a spin around the block or something. But I'll wait a little bit, so it's right.
I did see somebody on a Suzuki, and I did think that was you, and I was like, it's not the same color. So there was definitely somebody out on a Suzuki in Boston over the weekend riding, man. So I'm excited. I know you must be excited for MotoGP and all that stuff. So we're gonna continue to bring folks in and get this MotoGP talk going. The real Luis Ortega, welcome to the Vroom Wednesday, man. We're a little bit more laid back and having some fun. How you doing tonight, man?
Good. Sorry I missed the last podcast. I really wanted to go in hard on my boy Track Stars, but no, I'm doing really good. I'm glad to see some new faces and hear some new opinions. It's always good to mix it up. So I'm looking forward to the podcast today.
All right, nice, man. I gotta assume you're excited that MotoGP happened. You must be, chomping at the bits a little bit for that too.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it didn't feel as long of a winter for MotoGP to start as it has in other years. I don't know why, but it felt like the last race and this race went by fast. Maybe because there's just so much craziness going on in the world that everything goes by fast. But I'm glad it's here because it's such an incredible sport, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I feel the same, and we'll probably just chop it up about that a little bit as well because it did feel a little different even after the weekend is over. Also did feel a little different. So we're gonna break it down and see what happens there. Last but not least, let's bring in the one and only Bobby Shakes. What's going on, man? I see you're still milked. When are you gonna stop being milked?
I know, right? Still cold.
I think I stumped you finally.
Wow.
What's good, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Feel good as always. If I was Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, BMW, Aprilia, MV Agusta, I would be pretty sad.
Okay, I'm glad you're none of those things, and it sounds like your room is red, so you are definitely Team Ducati.
Absolutely.
The kids are good. Dinner was good. You ready to dive? You got your glasses on for protection. You ready to dive into this GP talk?
My blue blocker glasses, blue light, so the government can't steal my brain, and I can just focus on that tunnel vision. Get out of the draft, get to that number one plate.
Okay, gotcha. I wasn't quite sure when you say get out of the draft. I didn't know you were gonna. I didn't know if we were gonna go do a left turn to politics when you said that. But you're talking about racing.
Yeah, I'm talking about racing.
Welcome everyone to the show. Everyone is doing well. MotoGP is happening in Thailand. I see. Well, everybody looks like they may have a hoodie on, except for myself, or a sweater on. Are you guys not feeling as hot as it was in Thailand? What are your thoughts on the MotoGP race over the weekend?
Man, it was so good to be back with the racing. I mean, just to see all the riders out there just ready to start the season and the expectations. And I mean, I thought it was great. I was excited, just too much at once, as always. But, you know, I'm just so excited for the season to start.
Now, TJ, are you like me? Do you wake up at like in this case? So you up at like midnight, 2 a.m, 3 a.m watching, or you kind of got it on replay when you woke up, like sane people would do?
Well, when the practice first started, I think on our time it was like 9 or 10 o'clock. So I kind of watched it until I fell asleep, but I couldn't catch the MotoGP live practice. But I caught myself up with everything. And just what I wanted to see, back smiling.
No doubt. Lewis, talking about practice, I mean, and watching, and the same thing. What are your thoughts of the overall weekend of the GP being back? And like I asked TJ, do you watch it real time as the real Lewis Ortega?
Same thing. I watched the practices. The only thing I watched real time was the race, the sprint. I watched it later. I just wake up, don't open social media because everybody spoils everything. Just go straight to the GP site. I will say this. The old GP site used to have a link that was called No Spoilers.
Yeah.
And I don't see that link anymore on the new site. And it sucks because as soon as you land on the landing page, it tells you who won. So I don't know if that link still exists. If it does, please, somebody mail it in, because that's one of the biggest dangers now is when you go on the new GP site, the landing page gives away everything, and it's really bad. That's the downside.
I agree. It's a few dangers. I mean, last year they changed it up, and it was really, to me, clumsy last year. Mm-hmm. And I think this year it's better. But things like the spoiler, you're absolutely right. There should be a place for that. And I assume somebody might have forgotten to hit the upload button over the weekend or something like that. Because it's still clunky. It's definitely better. But it should be a lot better than what it is.
Yeah.
Bob, go ahead.
No, yeah, for sure. They definitely need to take a couple more passes at that website, clean it up a little bit more. I think it's always going to be clunky because it's hard to stream, around the world, and God knows how many people are tapping in at the same time.
Right. How many different languages?
Different languages, but they still need to clean it up, man. I mean, it's a professional. It's the top racing in the world. Like Formula One doesn't have a clunky website. Even NASCAR doesn't have a clunky website. So for MotoGP to not have a top tier website, that's a little bit of a fail, considering it's $150 to get the package.
Right.
And I'm sure that they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people subscribing to this thing. And you need a better product if you're making that much money. That's my 2 cents.
Nice. I completely agree. Bobby Shakes, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts of the weekend? Should the website be better?
The website was terrible, but I watched all the races on the website on my phone, and it seemed to work a lot better.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it was really, really streamlined on the iPhone, as opposed to watching on the desktop. I guess it's because you don't want to put too many things on your landing page. Yeah, it was great. I like the website. On the mobile, it's great. On the website, on the computer, unbelievable, those guys.
Right. Sounds like the app might be better on the phone versus the web action there. Hopefully they'll sort it out and make it good. But let's talk about the race. I mean, the practice sessions. The Marquez brothers finishing up top in the practice session. It reminded me of some years of the Patriots when it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win the championship before the race even started. How did you guys feel about those guys finishing 1 and 2, and even Morbidelli showing up a little bit and Pecco struggling?
Well, first I'll start with Petco. I mean, he's still back on his routine, just diving into the season or diving into the race weekend at his regular pace and picking it up at the end. I think that needs to change, especially when Mark's on his team. Mark's not playing any games as we see already. So, but it's good to see the Marquez brothers taking a lead and taking a step. Mark's going to be Mark. From the season that Alex had last year, it was really good to see him to be on the podium in the first race of the season because I don't think he really had a great year last year, but it was really good to see them both at the top. I know they must speak at night, tell all the tricks and trades to each other.
Right.
Definitely fortunate to have a brother.
Yeah. No, Lewis, as you hear, TJ talks about playing games, not playing games. It looked like Mark was playing games when he claimed it was tire pressure in his press conference while he let his brother get in front of him for about 12 to 14 laps. What are your thoughts on that? And also, were you team Marquez brothers after qualifying for practice?
I mean, I've been a Marquez fan since, I'll be honest with you, I believe it was Estoril when he was in 125.
Okay.
It's going way back.
Yeah.
It was a race that he was leading, and it was an important race for the championship. It started to rain. They pitted everybody in. He went back out, and on the sighting lap, he crashed, got the bike back in. They changed the fairing completely. They got him out in the back of the grid, so he had to start from the back, even though he was leading the race.
Yeah.
And he still won the race. And that was the day that, I was already a fan of his, but that was the day that, I was like, oh, man. And then I used to work for Shoei. And this was, he was a up-and-comer in Shoei. And so I've been a fan of his for a long time. And it was great to see him back in form on a competitive bike. I mean, he did well last year on a competitive bike. And I think now he has the best package in the paddock. And he just, again, it's only one race, but he really is showing that he is that next level guy that not everybody can keep up with. When it's his weekend, he can pretty much clean the weekend up. I mean, he literally played track day coach for 12 laps, showing his brother the lines and keeping Pecco just far enough away. And when it was time to drop the hammer, he dropped the hammer and showed people, look, man, I could have won this race by 24 seconds if I didn't have this tire pressure issue.
Well, let's put on your CEO Dainese hat. If one of your guys did that in a race for 12 laps, and you expect them to be a pro, do you say and he ends up winning, right? What do you say? Do you just say, great job, or do you still give a speech?
No, it's a great job because again, we don't know the exact parameters. The rules for tire pressure in MotoGP are so ridiculous that you can't be outside of the tire pressure for a certain amount of laps or you get penalized.
Right.
So you literally every lap have to look down at your dashboard and see if the red light's on or the tire pressure gauge is on and where it's at. And if it's outside of the boundaries, you have to figure out a way to either increase the pressure or decrease the pressure. And since it was 130 degrees on the tarmac, how do you set tire pressure when the track is 130 degrees?
Only 3 riders have done that. And 2 of the riders, 3 times that's been done, I think, last year and now, and 2 times by Marc Marquez, and I think 1 time by Gian Antonio.
Yeah.
Where they give up a position for the tire pressure.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, this comes back to a bigger thing with Michelin tires and with that stupid tire pressure rule. I understand why it's there, but maybe Michelin should make a better tire. Because when we were with Bridgestone, we didn't have all these tire pressure issues.
Right.
And now with Michelin, it seems like it's becoming more and more relevant. Like when a rider has to keep track of his own tire pressures while he's racing, that's ridiculous, man. I got 50 other buttons on this bike. I got to worry about my tire pressure.
Yeah, and from what he said in the in his press conference, he's counting laps and figuring out when he has to get back in front to be able to push, which is a lot. And we have seen riders in MotoGP forget what lap they're in and start celebrating too early. Yeah, absolutely right. Bobby Shakes, if your brother let you in front of you for some laps and beat you, what's the conversation? Beat you after what's the conversation like on the ride home, man?
Why didn't you let me win? I was so close.
$300,000 is why he didn't let him win.
But yeah, but we can share that. I can make that up. I'm your little brother. You showed me how to go around the track because I had no idea how to go around the track. You went out in front of me. You showed me all the perfect lines, and I was trying my best in the lines, but it just wasn't good enough for the older brother. It's never good enough for an older brother. Thank God I don't have one. But I feel his pain. Terrible. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. You know, it's like, how many more wins does Marc Marquez need in MotoGP? I have none.
Right.
Let me get one.
Right. It's like giving Bob Marley
Give me
another
one.
Grammy. Come on. How many Grammys does Bob Marley need? How many wins does Marc Marquez need?
It's never enough, man.
Spaniards.
Ask Michael Jordan how many times he wants to win. He'll tell you never enough.
Never enough, right? Don't start till you get enough. Come on.
Hey, listen, man. That's what it is. Is Pecco Bagnaia in trouble? Is he just having to work a little bit harder? Is it just, the first weekend? And it's just, as TJ mentioned earlier, it's just a normal Pecco, what he normally does at the beginning of the season. So we really shouldn't be alarmed. We should just be happy what the Marquez brothers done. You want to elaborate a little bit more on TJ?
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry at all about Pecco. I mean, in the press conference, like Mark said, in the past 4 years, Pecco came in second, first, and second. So, I mean, he's back to his it has to be, he has to improve. So he's back to a learning curve, knowing that there's another better rider ahead of him right now. So just got to step up his game. I don't think we have to worry at all about Pecco. He's going to find a way to keep his points up and finish more races than he did last year.
Lewis, did Mark scare Pecco a little bit by this weekend? And in the press conference, Pecco mentioned that even though the bike is similar to a 24, it's not quite the same bike. So is it just a matter of feeling, or does the Marquez brother do they know something that the other riders don't know that they're sharing one another? Maybe, because Mark's on a different level. And so is you think there's some things there that they know that the data is not showing?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things right now. I mean, one, Alex is now the primary rider on the team, the Grassini team, whereas last year everybody knew he was the B rider. And primary riders get a little more attention from the mechanics and the techs, and they get a little bit of the best of everything because you want your primary rider out there. Mark, I mean, you could look at all the data you want, you still can't be Marc Marquez. Like, you can't wake up one morning and be Casey Stoner. Like, there's a talent can't be replicated. It can't be duplicated. You can try to elevate your talent to catch that talent, but he's got a level of talent that right now, and a level of experience. Remember, he's the only guy in MotoGP right now that was also in MotoGP in 2014. Like, he's the last of the veterans. So this guy has more experience racing than anybody else. He's been around the tracks more than anybody else, put down more laps than anybody else. I think, again, it's the beginning of the season. It's the first race. But it doesn't bode well for at least the first 3 races, because Mark is also really good in Argentina. And Mark was the king of Coda until his injury and Honda fell apart. But Mark is also known to sometimes throw it away. So if he rides smart, it should be well. I think Pecco has definitely got some tracks that he's going to be more competitive at. And same thing with even Aprilia. I mean, Ayagura was right there on an Aprilia. And as a rookie coming in right behind Pecco Bagnaia on an Aprilia, his first time racing, I mean, that bodes pretty well for them because they do have some tracks that Aprilia is very strong at. Coda is one of those tracks that Aprilia is strong at. So I think it's still going to be a competitive season. I don't think Marc Marquez is just going to run away with it, but it is definitely, he definitely put up notice that, I'm on the best bike and I'm definitely the best rider. So you guys are going to have to do whatever you can to catch me now.
Right. Now, I will say that you're right about some things, a lot of that. And I'm going to go to Shakes on this. You talked about, how comfortable, Lewis, you talked about how comfortable Mark looks and so forth. And he didn't look worried the whole weekend. Like everyone else, you mentioned Ayaguro, you mentioned these other riders. They had a look like they didn't have it together. Mark looked like he just arrived in Fiji or whatever island, ready for vacation. He didn't in Honda when he was dominating. He still walked around with this, like, I don't want to say shark, but this kind of like don't F with me mentality. But the guy is smiling and having a good time. So is Shakes, is Mark playing with these guys, or it's just going to work itself out over the next few rounds where people are?
I think it's over. And this is why I say that. I was watching him sliding the bike around in the turns, like just sliding, and his speed going into the turns. And I'm just watching this, and he's just, as everybody just said, everybody agrees, he's just on that level.
All right.
What is your older brother going to do to you now? Your older brother's going to teach you, give you the cheat code. Because like Lewis said, Marquez got the cheat code, right? When you've done these tracks so many times, you have a cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to give that cheat code to his brother. I think the Italian's in trouble. Barring injury or barring anything crazy, I think the Italian's in trouble. And it might be just 1-2. Like I said today on the phone, this may sound crazy, but you need somebody crazy on the show for entertainment purposes. I would be very surprised if another manufacturer gets on the grid
this whole season.
Okay. I'd be very, very, very surprised. They're still chasing the Honda record of 22 straight Grand Prix in a row.
It's some number, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're 2 or 3 tracks away from that record. That Ducati just looks insane. And as you go down the grid, the Ducati's there, right? So the Ducati's there, and everybody's talented. It's just my guy's got the cheat code, and he's on the 25, and the Italian's on the 25. The brother's on the 24.
Well, they're all on the same bike in theory. They're all on the same.
Right, but the motor's different.
No, I think the motor. I think the motor's a 24, but the chassis and stuff is different.
I thought the motor was 25 for Marquez and Bagnaia.
I think they stuck to the 24, right?
Yeah, I think they swapped into 24.
24.9 motor.
Yeah. So it's an updated version of the 24, but it's not the full 25, because when they tested the 25, I think they didn't like something about it. There's some sort of feedback that they got that they didn't appreciate. So what they did is evolve the 24 motor. So the factory team is always going to have a little bit more secret sauce than everybody else. But as far as machinery, they're pretty close. But then the talent is what separated them.
Right. So speaking of the Italians and the other riders on the grid, let's go down the list. Let's talk about Aprilia. As we saw Ayagura, fourth and fifth, I believe, in that order. Fourth and fifth rookie. Silent assassin, right? I mean, I really was rooting for him in 23 to win the Moto2 championship. So when he didn't win that, I felt bad because he really showed his potential in 23. I was happy for him in 24 for him to win it. I didn't expect him to do what he did in this first round on the Aprilia. If you had to ask me, out of all the three rookies, I would have said Furman Aldeguer had the best shot. But let's talk about Aprilia. Let's talk about what they did. We saw Bezzecchi. He did better in the GP. It crashed out in the sprint. Does Aprilia stand a chance? Is it going to be the rookie that saved them, or we just kind of say it's just the first round, just chill because he didn't have all the same setup as all the more senior Aprilia riders?
I mean, as Lewis said, I usually wait till like the third round to let things settle in. Because like everything is just high intensity. The first race, I do give it to Igor. He did amazing. I would definitely root for him as far as the rookies go. But who expected him to run up front? And he learned so much. He was right behind Pecco. I mean, just he even said like just watch how smooth he rides and stuff like that. I think Aprilia should be okay. I mean, like I said, it's the first race. Bezecchi did really well. One thing I didn't know about Maverick Vinales is that he was always in Q2.
Right.
It's been like 40 races since 2023, something like that. And he didn't get it this time. So it was a little bummer for him. But I'm sure he'll figure it out. And hopefully Aprilia can get it together. I mean, they have, I think, 4 bikes. So.
Okay. And Louis, your thoughts on Aprilia Iagura, and did he have a better start than Acosta, or similar start? I don't remember if Acosta made it on the podium his first race or second race, but who you thought had a better first round overall, and then also your thoughts on Aprilia and how they started their first round.
I mean, thinking about what year we're in and the situation, like at the beginning of last year, KTM was in a better situation than Aprilia. So for KTM to finish higher last year was, not that bad. I think Acosta did well last year because he was on a better package. The Aprilia package last year was good at some tracks, but for the most part, the KTM was a little bit more better rounded bike. But I think Agura for this first 2 races in MotoGP to finish right behind the second place finisher in the championship last year was really, really good. I think Bezecchi, he had a really bad start. The one race he spun up.
Oh yeah.
Really bad. So he dropped, I think, almost all the way down to 18th or something and had to fight his way back.
Vinales is like, see.
Yeah. I think KTM is the manufacturer that's in trouble right now. I mean, their guys all seem to be struggling. Acosta, Binder, Vinales, like the entire KTM squad seems to be struggling, and that doesn't bode really well. I mean, they barely finished in the top 10 for the most part. But seeing Agura, the way he finished, I mean, I think he finished 7 or 8 seconds behind Marquez in the actual race. That's really good, man, because that gives me some hope that when Martin comes back, if Martin can get back into health, I mean, there's a good chance Martin can finish in that top 5 or at least compete in the top 5. I don't think he's got anything for Pecco and Mark because the Aprilia still struggles in a lot of tracks. There's some issues with the bike where it doesn't handle or work the right way. I mean, it definitely doesn't launch well. 3 times out of 10, it'll launch into the pit instead of going forward.
Oh man, and I feel, and it's like some commentators and folks in front of the camera gave Vinales a hard time last year, and to see that happen to Bezecchi this time, it kind of like sometimes it is just the machine. Bobby Shakes is where do you see Aprilia? We see this rookie. Is it just too soon to tell, or this dude does he have a shot to win like Rookie of the Year?
If he has a shot to win a Rookie of the Year, all he's got to do is just hold on. Remember, like we all said, Aprilia is playing at a handicap. When Martin comes back, then we can really judge to see what's going on, and then they will have a rookie that can feed off his energy. Aprilia's the only manufacturer I feel could make a run, but they're handicapped right now. We don't know the time frame when Martin's coming back. We don't know if he's going to be ready to go, if he's going to have to do rehab, and he's going to have to rehab while riding. But I think that's the only problem with Aprilia right now. They're just handicapped. They're handicapped. Right. What do you want?
Now, we saw what we talk about. I'm laughing because it's crazy to see. Like we saw Mark Marquez did to Alex Marquez being the newer rider dominating the team. We saw what Acosta did to Fernandez on the Tech 3 being a rookie, and what Igura did to Raul Fernandez, who I think he at least jump started him better because it's the best results we've seen from Raul in a long time. Do these more senior riders need to start talking to Marquez for advice? Like, what do we do because the number 2 rider is showing us up?
I mean, probably won't get no info, but they need to start talking to somebody. I mean, like Jack Miller needs to start talking to somebody. Like all these older riders. I mean, they're hanging on. Hopefully they can keep their seat, but they definitely need to start seeing what the new data is about. I don't know if they're all on the same. I don't think they're all on the same chassis, but they definitely need to start talking.
You do have to look yourself in the mirror, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're the most senior rider or the number one rider on the team, you do have to be like, oh shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just being like the older brother too, or like the oldest. You know what I'm saying? You got to take responsibility in certain situations. So if you ain't doing too well, you got to figure it out.
Got you.
Call on the lifeline.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lewis, what are your thoughts, man? What do you give advice to the guys that's been holding it down, and then the new person shows up and they decide to take the spotlight a little bit. In this case, I mean, well deserved, because Ayagura rode well, Miller rode well for Yamaha, what do the senior guys, how they deal with that, or advice to give?
Best advice is do better. Because there's more young. If you think this young guy is hungry, there's 32 other guys in Moto 2 that are hungry as well. And I think I forgot who it was this weekend, but they interviewed one of the rookies, and one of the big things that they said the adaptation from Moto 2 to Moto GP is much smaller than the adaptation from Moto 3 to Moto 2.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
And so now that gap is shrunk, when these guys, and this is one of the reasons of this graduated system. When these guys are coming from Moto 2 to Moto GP, it's not the big jump that it used to be 8 or 10 years ago, where the bikes were that much different. Now there's so much of the electronics that have moved over to Moto 2, outside of like ride height assistance and things like that. A lot of the electronics are already on the Moto 2 bike. The handling is the same. The weight is very close. The only difference then is really power.
Right.
And, if you're a good rider, you're going to be able to adapt to the power, and then you just need to adapt to a few more electronics. So all these guys that have been around that, are sitting on their hands, they need to get moving, man. More gas, less brakes, whatever you got to do, because if these young guys are already beating you or nipping at your heels, that doesn't bode well for a long career for you.
It does not. Bobby Shakes, your thoughts?
Listen, once you pass 35, you gotta eat more spinach. These young kids are going through the academy. The younger you are, the less fear you have. And that's just what it is. And they know that they're on the grid because they deserve to be there because they worked hard. The old guys, you gotta send it. It's just that simple. The young guys, the rookies, I mean, it was crazy what that young rookie was doing.
Yeah.
It was because there's just no fear, and the academy and the learning and probably the data that you're getting and the training, it's just a different sport now, right? In all sports across the board. I mean, this kid's probably been racing since he's 3. I mean, the old guys, there was a lot of not that much workout, maybe a little partying, smoking, drinking, where these younger generation is pinpoint focused on what they're doing. We know the data from nutrition, sleep, rest, stretching, weightlifting. It's happening in every sport, where the rookies are coming in there, and the transition now, because of money, has shrank the gap. And that's happened in all sports, not just MotoGP.
I agree. They instead of full send it, we have to say, little LeBron James or something, because he's putting up ridiculous numbers at 40 something. And if you're going to be an old guy in any sport, or old woman, you still got to be in the top 1 or 2 to stay there. You can't be like the old Karl Malones and these guys that used to still just do the farewell tour and put up some numbers. Now you still have to be one of the top. Let's talk about Honda. Zarco finished 7th. Mia crashed out of 6th. What are your thoughts on Honda? We saw a little glimpse of it last year, but it seems like they have a better foundation this year. What are your thoughts?
I thought they started out pretty well going into practice and stuff like that. As far as Mir goes, I think he crashed out in the sprint, or was it the GP?
The GP.
Yeah. Okay, he crashed on the GP. So I think he felt the Honda what it can do in the sprint. It's just obviously it's half distance, but I think he felt like things are working towards the better. But I think they still got a lot of work in progress. Especially where Ducati's sitting right now. Honda's still got a lot of work in progress.
And Lewis, how important is it for Honda to be the third best bike on the grid? I won't say second, but the third, because it's a good chance for them to be the third best bike on the grid.
I mean, it's an improvement from being the worst bike on the grid. I mean, anytime you go up is better than going down. I mean, they were in the basement, so you can't go over. It's still sad because I'm a big fan of Honda. One of my first motorcycles ever was a Honda. I grew up loving Honda, and to see them in this situation, it hurts because the fact that they lost Repsol as a sponsor and all these other things. I mean, it seems like a slow erosion of Honda as a racing team, and they're kind of rebuilding from the ground up. If you think about it, they have competent riders. I mean, Zarco's been around a long time. Mir's won a championship. I think Marini is one of the riders that's kind of on that bubble that, he's been around a while. He's had some success, and he needs to keep trying to be consistent, stay in the top 12 whenever possible. I'm not going to say top 10 because that's a big lift for Honda. When they can get in the top 10, that's a W for them at this point. But again, I hope that they get a little bit further. I mean, I think they're going to probably finish above KTM. I think KTM is going to have the longest season this year. I think they're going to have the most problems this year. So even if they finish at the end of the year fourth of the manufacturers, at least they're not in the basement again for another year.
Contracts are coming up. Who do you keep? Does Zarco get a factory seat? Do you keep Luca?
That's hard to say, man. Zarco's not that young. I mean, he looks like he's 57. For some reason, he's the oldest looking MotoGP race on the grid. But
He still does backflips.
He still does backflips. But I mean, Zarco is somebody you probably want to keep, even if he doesn't ride for you, because he's obviously a good development rider. He's putting a lot of good laps in, and he's helping you develop the bike. Mir, I think he's under contract through 2026.
Yeah,
I think Marini as well might be in contract through 26 at this point.
No, he's going to be end of. He had 24, 25, so he'll be done at the end of this year.
So Mir might be the one that's on the bubble.
Yeah, Luca
Marini might be the one that's on the bubble, and that might not be a bad thing because I'm sure his brother bring him back to VR46. He'll find another place for him to ride.
I'm sure. Shakes. Speaking of Honda, I know that's the closest thing to a Harley because they both start with H. What are your thoughts about Honda? Zarco finished 7th. Mir looked good. I mean, they all moved up compared to last year. What are your thoughts?
Honda has a great bike at the local track. Also has a great bike in Moto 3. I think they just got to hang on, right? We're gonna get a new engine. We're probably gonna pick up some money. Gonna put when the rule change, put a better engine out. But as of right now, I don't see Honda doing anything. I don't see Honda threatening 5th spot. I just don't see it.
So you think they're gonna call it like Dallas Mavericks might be calling it?
Yeah, just call it and build your platforms in the lower rankings and just see what's going on with that bike. And then hopefully you could move the bike up and come play with the big boys.
Okay. All right. So do you keep all your riders until then, or do you try to snag a couple of the young ones? And it may be tough because these young guys, they want to be on winning bikes, as you mentioned earlier, with all the training and all the effort they've put in their whole life. They don't want to be Zarco.
Well, you got to keep Zarco, then you bring in a rookie. That way you have the tutelage to help out, right? You can't just bring in 2 new riders on a new bike. I think you need a little bit of experience in the paddock, and then you bring in a rookie in, and that's what happened last year at Ducati, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, come on. You know my guy Marquez taught your guy how to ride. Come on.
Do you think Honda is trying to play it smart? Seeing what KTM is going through right now, of fortunate having Mark Marquez for so long to not spend so much money developing the bike, just to not go bankrupt.
Well, I don't know if Honda's going to go bankrupt because their money.
Well, I know their money's long. I know the money's long, but I was just them being so good for so long,
Yeah, I do think that Honda and Yamaha and sometimes larger companies that have been around for a while, they lose sight of trends, changing in trends and shifting in markets and stuff like that because they've just been a giant for so long. They think that nothing's going to happen to their house. And I think Honda fell to that. And even though somebody was telling them, but Ducati's doing this, whatever. But Ducati's doing it, whatever. But then you saw that in 2018, 2019, with Dovizioso and how much he pushed Mark and how Mark had to ride to where he had to ride to continue to be on top and stuff like and subsequently getting hurt. So I do believe that. Yeah, and that can happen in any company. And I always think like, I never want to be that. And I always try to keep that in mind. But also that becomes dangerous, too, because you don't always necessarily always want to change the game every time. So I don't know what that balance is for them. But this I'm pretty sure some people lost their jobs and a lot more by what's happening. Because the Japanese, they do take pride in everything. So this can't be good internally.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the one thing that Honda does differently, and this is a Japanese manufacturer thing in general, the Japanese used to be very fast to bring innovation to market to consumers. So they would develop something in racing and you would see it in a bike within like 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. And they've gone away from that. I mean, they've gone away from that years ago. I mean, that's why the R6 was pretty much the same bike from 2002,
3?
No, a little bit later, like 2009.
Well, it's 8,
9.
Yeah. 07.
Yeah. And then they just had moderate changes to the airbox and this and that. And then they finally had like one big update, which was just really electronics and bodywork. I mean, it wasn't that major of an update for the R6 in the last iteration. And this is where the separation is. Honda and the Japanese manufacturers are looking more at the global picture. Last year, Honda had its biggest sales year, set an all-time sales record. They sold something like 19 million motorcycles worldwide. Okay. So, they want to win races. They want to do everything, but they're not doing what Ducati does, which is they innovate stuff at the track, and then that stuff ends up on their bikes pretty quickly. And that's what Honda and Yamaha used to do, and they need to go back to that. And but again, then it becomes a business thing. How many 1000s are we actually selling? How many sport bikes are actually selling versus how many small displacement bikes are we selling? If we can sell 19 million small displacement bikes, do I really need a new CBR 600 or a new CBR 750 to compete in these new weird classes that are coming up all over the world? Or I just keep making money selling my small bikes and investing what I can in racing when I can, and it is what it is.
Bobby Shakes, add anything to that? I
mean, Lewis stole my thunder. I mean, like I've been saying, capitalism versus my hobby. Right? Racing is everybody's hobby. Capitalism is how we pay the guy at the front desk.
I didn't cut you off. I didn't notice that Lewis said 19 million and something versus 20 million that Honda is saying. So I can see how he's being specific to how much they sold and not give him the 20 million talking about capitalism.
Never going to give him the 20, bro. Yeah, you got to earn that.
Got to earn that. Yeah, it's I get Yamaha and Honda in a good spot selling bikes.
Mm-hmm.
They sell everything. Companies run perfectly. Racing is what Ducati does. That's what they do. And if you want to Ducati, we want you to do that also. Where, if you look in a lot of major cities, a lot of kids are on mopeds right now. You may see people on Groms. It's a lower CC going on in the street right now. You don't need a registration or license plate. That's where that focus is going right now. That's making the money.
So Honda and Yamaha is the new Jordans. Back in the day, you wore Jordans when you played ball. Now you just wear Jordans because you can.
Oh yeah.
And Ducati, and like Bobby was saying, Ducati has that same Ferrari mentality. You win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. And Ducati doesn't do the volume that Honda does or that Yamaha does, but they do their volume because, again, they win on Sunday to sell on Monday. They still have that mentality, that hunger to win drives their sales. This is why they have the ecosphere of like the Ducati rider and the Ducati DREs and everything else. They do that because that's their selling feature. Honda, their selling feature is not winning races. Yamaha, yeah, their selling feature is being competitive in certain series, but again, it's not win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Ducati lives by that mentality. Only Ducati.
I like to add this in too, real quick, Rex, because watching you Sunday with them putting your Ducati back together, I've never seen never seen like white gloves on, and they've got to protect it for the radiator, and then they put it on, and everything's slow and meticulous, and make sure the screw fits correctly.
A lot of talking going on.
Yeah, whereas so that just goes to show that our bikes are for racing. Where Honda, when I worked in the motorcycle shop, Honda, Yamaha, it's mass production.
Here's a torque wrench right here.
yeah, that's the torque wrench. Mass production. Let's get it out. We're a business, because at the end of the day, Honda and Yamaha is worth more than Ducati, and that's what's important. Very important. Very important, because you can't fuel the shipment truck with wins on Sunday.
Yep.
Got to sell bikes.
You're a Harley guy, I can tell. I can just tell. Let's talk about Yamaha. Quartararo looked like he struggled. I would have thought, just based on testing and everything, and probably even qualifying and stuff like that, I would have thought Quartararo would have had a better weekend. But it seems like Miller, even though he had issues as well, was the better rider of the four guys. We're Yamaha guys. Three of us here have Yamaha, actually Shake's got a Yamaha shirt, so four of us here got Yamahas.
No. I got rid of it after this weekend. I traded in for Ducati t-shirts. He hasn't come in yet.
Okay. What are your thoughts, TJ?
I mean, they started off really looking okay in the practice. I'm always going to start with practice. I'd say Quartararo did. Jack Miller, he tried, but he started in Q1. I mean, he was so excited to get out of Q1, to get into Q2. Jack Miller does what Jack Miller does. But overall, he crashed out in the sprint. He did finish in the GP 11. Alex Rins finished 17th in the GP, and Quartararo was in the back the whole time. I forgot where he finished, 15th. So they could have done a lot better. It's definitely a very bad start to their first Grand Prix weekend. So, yeah.
Jack Miller reminds me of Redden. These guys that I think they have to me, they have what Marquez have, but just have a lot of bad luck. Like these guys, like they'll have races where it's just unbelievable. They do things, but a lot of times it's just kind of like it doesn't work out for them. Lewis, I mean, is it just bad luck for Miller? Because the kid, I mean, he got into MotoGP at 15. He was, skip Moto2. So the talent is there.
Well, Jack Miller is a victim of bad management. He should have never skipped Moto2. Realistically, he should have gone to MotoGP. He should have spent some time in Moto2, build the body to go to GP in racing, not just physically, but like mentally, and then go to GP. And I think he would have had a little bit more success earlier in his career. Instead, he struggled mightily for the first half of his career. Once in a while, he would have flashes of brilliance. I think Yamaha in total as a complete, they better pray for a lot of rain races, man. because the bikes suck. The bikes suck, man. When you're both factory riders finish behind your satellite team riders, and even your satellite team riders are finishing 22 seconds behind the winner, you're in trouble, man. I mean, Honda finished better than them. Jesus Christ. Like at that point, you know, do you even want to show up to the next race? Like they got some big problems, and I don't know if they're waiting for the engine change in 27, but it's going to be a long 25 and it's going to be a long 26 if they don't come with something. Because you can't, you know, and I hate to say it because I've always been an Alex Rins fan. I think he's a super talented rider. I compare him to a Jorge Lorenzo. The way he rides is just smooth as butter. Yep. And when he could put it all together, but even him finishing that far down, I know he's got some injuries and things like that, but you know, is this kind of like the downturn in his career? Is it this the point where, you know, maybe I just finish out this year and, you know, kind of call it a day in racing or move on to somewhere else? Or I'm so disgruntled by this bike that this is all the effort I want to put in, man. I'm not trying to kill myself on this shit box. Like seriously.
Bobby, what are your thoughts on Yamaha? Are they done? I see you already sold your shirt and went to Ducati, so you might have got some insider trading already.
I'm trying to find the grid. Were they on the second grid? The second line of the grid, Yamaha?
Let me see if I can get
starting positions.
Yeah,
I think they're on the second or third line.
Let's see if I can pull it.
You can't find the grid. I've been looking for it.
Yeah, I don't remember what the started. Let's see Q2. Miller finished in Q2 in fourth position. So yeah, he was in the second row.
Yeah, second row. So yeah, that says it all, right? You guys are Rossi's walking through that door, guys. He's gonna walk through that door. Don't worry about it. Second line think about it though, right? Yamaha, second line. First line Ducati, which is the huge monster, the big elephant in the room, the pink gorilla in the forest. And for you to be on the second line, I don't think it's over. I just
Bobby
think
Shakes. Bobby Shakes. I know you're from the UK and you drink a lot of tea, and you might be confusing second lines with New Orleans, but second row on the grid, my brother. Second row on the grid.
Oh, so second row.
I drink from Starbucks. Go ahead and say it, Shakes.
Yeah, so I think, you know, it's just when the machine is not working well, like we spoke, the machine's not working well, everything stops working well. The coffee machine doesn't work. The ice machine is just broken. It just starts to trickle down. But second on the grid, you can't say that company's done. No way.
Any rebuttals?
I have a rebuttal there. So you can pull one fast lap out of your ass. But let's say, all right, just for the sake of consistency, he finished, he got onto the second position, or not second row, but he was in the second row for fourth position, right? Was the starting position, right? Yeah. Which means he qualified 0.3 seconds behind Marc Marquez. That's how close he was to pole position. Yeah. So at 0.3 seconds times 26 laps, he should have finished 7 seconds behind Marquez. He finished 22 seconds behind Marquez, man. So he actually tripled the amount of speed in the negative during the race. Like, you can't win a race in one fast lap. You can get a great grid position, but the race distance will determine you and your bike. And that's why they went backwards instead of forwards.
Come on, man. Fast and Furious. I almost had you.
Yeah.
Do you think I think it's more... Oh boy, it goes hand in hand, right? Could be bike and rider. One's not good without the other.
Yeah, no, and it could be tires. It could be this. It could be that. Again, the Yamaha package itself, just by seeing where people finished, not where they started, just shows you, because Quartararo started further up in the grid. Also, everybody started further up in the grid, but they went backwards, man. So either the other guys had better packages over a longer distance. That, you know, that one fast lap that you had that got you into that position, you couldn't maintain that for the race.
Okay.
And that's where I see the problem with Yamahas. They don't have the ability to maintain that fast race. But at some tracks they will. Like there's some fast paced tracks that again they lean towards the strengths of the Yamaha, so they have less long straightaways where they don't have a lot of top end, things like that. So they'll be competitive at some tracks. It's just week in and week out, the one bike that shows up at every track, rolls off the truck, and can win is the Ducati. That's the only bike you can put money on.
Yep, absolutely.
Miller
did say it did feel nice to ride a bike that feel like the rear tire wasn't going to hop off the bike. Wow. So speaking of KTM,
he's always got to throw his shots.
Is it just all in their head as far as the financial stuff, or is the bike also an issue?
I think it's I don't know. I think I would say it's a little bit of both. I mean, they still got some things to do with the bike. I mean, they still need to finish higher in the qualifying to have a chance. I mean, they can't just rely on Pedro Acosta. I mean, he is only in his second year at GP, so I also think the financial part is definitely. The energy is just in the area, so I think it ties into both.
Okay, all right. Same question to you, and I'll just add this: did they put too much stock into Pedro? When you look at Ducati, they're putting stock into senior riders, not rookies. But what are your thoughts, Louis?
No, I mean, I think they put the right stock into Pedro. I mean, the kid's talented. The kid should definitely be on the best equipment that they could possibly give him. But they're not giving him the best equipment because their best equipment is only so good. They've had equally quite talented riders on their best equipment. I mean, Binder's done enough laps on KTM to go to the moon and back 3 times. And he still is only good at 1 or 2 events a year or when it rains, because rain is the great equalizer in motorcycle racing. So that is not a good sign for a factory team that, you got to pray it rains, or you got to go to the Red Bull Ring where your team has done 1 million laps to be competitive. Like, you got to be competitive everywhere. And then their financial issues don't help them either, because it costs about 70 million euros to run a factory team. And when your brand is barely able to stay in business and it's trying to restructure and it's going through bankruptcy and everything else, does that, somewhere, somebody's looking at that bottom line like, wait a second, we're spending $70 million to go racing. We're trying to keep the lights on.
Right.
So guess what? We're not going to give you that titanium rod. You can use aluminum this week.
Right. And I'll throw this to all you, but I will start with Shakes. Does that mess with the motivation of individual people as we talk about teams and teams win championships and stuff like that? You as anywhere in any company, you hear these things, are you still gung-ho? Are you still gonna, see something on the ground across the street and across the room, and you're gonna go pick it up and throw it in the trash because you're that committed to the company? If there's something, if the coffee maker is leaking, are you going to tighten that or deal with it? Or you're just going to watch it drip? What is that motivation like for everyone in KTM right now?
It's got to start with the culture, right? What is KTM's culture? Because even if you don't have the money, you could have your staff and everybody at the company say, you know what, we're going to do this for the company. So I don't know what the energy like was, the mood is like in the company. Is it, oh man, we're going bankrupt, who cares for this? Or it's like, hey, we're going bankrupt, times are hard. If we all stick together, we could get on the other side. And that energy would then transfer to the riders. But I don't know what the culture's like at KTM. Right. I have no idea. I'm not inside that locker room to see what's going on. But if they have a good culture, I don't think bankruptcy or hard times can shake your factory team.
Right. So if you're Elon Musk, you also take a price cut as well as the people you lay off.
Oh my goodness. No comment. Government's listening.
I thought you had the glasses on, Shakes. So when you talk about culture, though, it has to be you leading by example. Is what I'm really trying to say. Like if you expect people to buy in, the people up top has to start showing that they're the ones that's going to pick up the trash on the ground and the first one to go do it.
Right. It's like when JFK was walking through the hallways of NASA and the great story saw a janitor mopping the floor and JFK said, "Hey, what do you do here?" He says, "I send rockets to the moon, Mr. President. I'm just the janitor, but they need these floors clean to send rockets to the moon." What is the culture inside those walls of that corporation? And that culture has to transcend down to the track. If there's a misconnect between corporation and track, then there's a miscommunication at the local dealership.
TJ, you want to add on that? Jump in. Something about the culture.
I mean, yeah, it's about the culture. I mean, you do got to start. I mean, the culture. You got to start from the ground up. Like, if you got to lead by what you stand by, you know, to have people buy in or what you want to accomplish. And I mean, I don't know I mean, like I know KTM's culture is more in the dirt. So like, I'm still trying to figure out their identity, really.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they still, you know, like I started watching MotoGP around 2019, like fully getting into it. So, you know, trying to still see like the patterns that everyone going through. But, you know, I'm so used to Brad Binder, like saying he's done so many laps. I've seen him win in the rain. I've seen Jack Miller go to KTM and leave. I've seen a lot of people come and go. And you know, I've seen KTM always get rid of riders right away. So I'm just like, how can you establish something when you can't even keep a rider for 2 years? So I don't know. I think they need to, like Bobby Shakes was saying, they got to start that way.
Right. Lewis, I'm going to have you wear the executive hat. You know, going through tough times, you know, your riders are not finishing where you think they should. When do you recognize it's the merchandise versus the rider, or is the rider just phoning it home because he's just happy that he ain't gonna get the same bonus he was promised?
I mean, contracts are contracts. You can't really break contracts. That's why you have contracts. Riders are if a rider's a professional and you got yourself a professional, that rider is riding for the team, but his first client is himself. His only product that he has to sell is him and his talent. So he's going to try to do the best he can with what you provide him, because even if he's not with you in a year from now, he still wants to show that he's a talent and he can go somewhere else. Like if a rider just phones it in, that's how you get fired, and that's how you keep moving from team to team. That's how you become a Maverick Vinales. You know, fired you from here because you try to blow up our engines. Fired you from here because you complain all the time. Fired you. So you have a talent, but at a certain time, you're gonna run out of talent. Like people are gonna get tired of dealing with you. You know, I look at the team that they have. I see the riders they have. They're all talented riders. They're all professionals. They all show up every weekend. They're all in shape. They all do what they got to do. If the package below them can't give them this position they want, they're still gonna push. I mean, you know, I looked at the race and I saw, you know, Bender going back and forth with Acosta. It's not like they're not pushing, man. They're trying their best, man. They're doing what they can, but they also understand, like, this is all I got. The same thing with the Honda riders. This is all I got, but I still need to push as much. Same thing with the Yamaha riders. That's professionalism. And that's what you have in your paddock. That's what you have in your garage, your mechanics, your techs. If you got professional people, even if they know that they don't have the best, they're still going to go out there and do 100 because they want to prove to other teams, hey, I'm of value. If I don't work for these guys, I could always work for you. And this is the talent that I bring. Whether you're a data tech, a mechanic, whatever you do in the paddock, man, people know it. It's a small paddock. You think it's big. It's not that big, man. All these people know each other. I've been in the GP paddock. They all know each other. They move from team to team. Hey, we need a mechanic this year. This mechanic's leaving. Hey, the guy that works for KTM is a really good mechanic. I've known him a long time. Let's hire him to bring him over here to Ducati. Right. Let's move this. Let's move that. It's a sad situation when the bike is bad, when the corporate morale maybe is not great, but inside the paddock, trust me, once you're in that garage, you just in there with your 5 or 6 guys, you guys are all going to be on each other's back because you all depend on each other to feed your family. Because what some of the things that people don't understand is when a rider wins in a certain position, there's bonuses. The bonuses don't just go to the rider, they go to the mechanics. So, the difference between me coming in 3rd place and me winning could be the difference between my mechanic having, that extra money to buy, that car he wants or send his kid to that school. So you all dependent. That's why they say, we win as a team, we lose as a team, because any one person can cause you to not win. But when we win together because we're all going to share in this same winning. We're all going to share in the money. We're going to share in the prize. And that's why you never lose professionalism. I've never been into a GP paddock that people have lost professionalism. The only time I've ever seen that is Maverick Vinales, man. He's the only guy that I've ever seen that I'm like, yo, this guy's completely unprofessional. Like, how do you do that? That's why Yamaha fired him. That's why, he says Aprilia didn't want him or he didn't want Aprilia. Aprilia didn't want him, man. After a year dealing with him, they're like, yo, we don't even want this guy, man. We see why Yamaha fired him. And now he's at his last stop, man. After this, he's got nowhere else to go, man. World Superbike, maybe. But he will not get another ride after this ride with the team he's on now.
No, now unless BMW goes to MotoGP.
Yeah.
Oof.
What about Jack Miller? What do you think about Jack Miller? I know he's not like Maverick, offensive. Jack has a personality behind him, but do you think he's at his last stop?
Yeah, I think this is his last stop. I think he'll probably be here for a year or two. I mean, if he keeps these results up, I could see him coming back for another year, maybe even for another 2 years. But this is definitely his last stop. Like, he won't be going back to Ducati. Ducati's looking towards the future. They want younger riders in their factory team. They want proven winners. He had a shot in the factory team. He didn't take advantage of it. And Ducati has a very short lifespan when you're in the Ducati factory team and you don't do well. Just ask Bastianini. Where is he at now? Oh, he's not here.
I can see Jack Miller in the World Superbike eventually, and who knows, Pramac might start a team over there because the Pramac guys really like him because and KTM. He's
a great personality. Yeah. Like he's gonna sell you tickets. He's one of those guys that has when fans like him, they like him, and he's got a great personality. He's very open. He's very more grounded than some other guys. Don't think he's poor. He's got plenty of money, but he's definitely doesn't let his status and his money get to him.
Yeah, he got a track in his front yard, doesn't he?
Yeah. So he got some money.
Right. That's what I want.
Which is pretty cool. What do you guys see in the next round in Argentina? I feel I'll go out on the record and say I think Morbidelli's going to have a good shot at winning something. I think Bezzecchi has a good shot because Aprilia has won at Argentina and Bezzecchi's been on the podium, if not won at Argentina as well. Outside of the Pecco and the Marc Marquez, I'm not ready to say Alex Marquez is up there yet after one round. Because we've seen flashes in the past, and he needs a little bit more, show a little bit more for me to sit here and say he's there. But he could be a contender as well. How do you guys see the top three coming out of Argentina?
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of some changes for the other manufacturers to try to compete for this next coming around. But I think Ducati's gonna be up there. There's no interference right now with Jorge Martin, so there's only certain guys that's used to running in the front. But I think Ducati's gonna do really well this race again. It's gonna start by Pecco and Marc Marquez, and possibly some of the other satellite teams. But
all Ducati.
I don't know. It's just all Ducati. I just want to see. Did we race this track last year? I think this track got canceled last year.
No, they didn't cut the check in time.
Okay, so
that's what happened. For real.
So I think it's gonna be good because it's just they're gonna get their feel back. It's gonna be different data, and I don't know, Rex, you think Morbidelli's going to do well, especially after his penalty? You know, he's back on his ways.
Yeah. I think Morbidelli. I've already said this on record. I think Morbidelli is the best VR46 Academy rider. I think he had injuries, and he had some bad luck with the Yamaha. But he's the first, not the first, because we'll say Simoncelli is the first guy to come out of the academy. But he's that guy, and we saw glimpses of it last year, and also last season he hurt himself on a Panigale in practice, and took him a while to get up to speed. So and fourth and fifth, and how he was finishing last year. I think for him, that penalty was crazy because I don't know how riders fall asleep on the track, and him and some other riders at times fall asleep on the track, and so those silly penalties are crazy because like I don't know how that happens when they and they know it's qualifying. It's not like it's free practice or anything like that. So outside of those bad penalties and stuff, I think he's a really talented rider. And I think this year has to be his year. I think he has a 1-year contract anyway with VR46 Academy. But I long and short of it, I'm a Morbidelli fan, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. What you think, Bobby Shakes?
Oh, I fell asleep at the track.
3-lap penalty for you.
Yeah, get the penalty loop going on. Well, I want to be a contrarian, but I'm not going to be. Spaniards and the Italian 1, 2, 3 a repeat for at least the next 2 tracks.
Okay. Alex Marquez, and Pecco Bagnaia is what you're saying.
Yep, for the next 3 tracks. I'll take all your money and sell it. I know I gave you guys a bad bet on Kawasaki on a Superbike, but I'm making it up for you here.
What are your thoughts, Louis?
I mean, if I had to put money down on it, I mean, I have to go with the sure thing. And Alex is not a guaranteed thing, whereas Mark is.
Right.
Like, Argentina, Mark goes fast as Argentina. Coda, Mark was the king of Coda. So to go against him winning at those 2 tracks is a hard bet. Really, it's going to be who's second, third, and fourth. I think Pecco will be up there. I actually think Bezzecchi will do really, really well in Argentina. Bezzecchi did well there with the Ducati. And I think with the speed of the Aprilia, if he gets a good launch, if he doesn't go into the stands, he'll probably be up there and he'll finish in the podium.
He'll qualify well.
He won in the rain. He won in the rain.
He won in the rain, yeah. So I think Bezzecchi has a great chance. Just looking at his late speed in Thailand after recouping, the bad start and everything, I think he's got the best shot. The one thing that I'll be looking forward to is let's see what Algura does in his second race at a different track that he's not very familiar with because he's never ridden in Argentina. I guarantee you he's ridden a lot of laps in Thailand.
Right.
So now let's go to Argentina and let's see how a rookie can put it together when he's never been there.
On a GP bike, though.
On a GP bike.
Yeah, that's it.
I agree. I think I agree with Lewis, right? Bezzecchi, throw the bike straight through the wall. That's how he's going to get to the podium.
Yeah. Cutting the chicane.
slow enough so you don't get a penalty.
Right.
He needs to get back on track.
Nice, man. Tell people how they can find you and who your sponsors are, man.
You can find me on IG, TikTok, 2 Wheels and Coffee, the number 2 Wheels and Coffee with a K. Sponsors are J&G Performance. That's a local performance, but helps service any type of bike you have. Hideaway RV Rentals, Official Vortex, and Woodcraft Technologies.
Lewis just disappeared altogether. Shakes.
Listen, you're not Bastianini, okay? Finished 20 seconds behind. It's okay. You can have yourself a chocolate. Okay, it's okay. 20 seconds behind. Not all of us is Mark Marquez. Fine. Great. He's God. The rest of us are peasants. So let's enjoy some candy at MiltonCookies.com. It's okay. One candy a day. Listen, maybe you might finish 17 seconds behind because of the sugar rush.
That's what you're telling.
That's what I'd say. And also at Bobby Shakes everywhere.
Nice. Last but not least, Lewis, not that you need to be found.
Instagram, Real Louis Ortega. Any comments, please send them to Track Stars. Tell them that Louis was right again. Always keep sending those comments to Track Stars about how I always beat him and I'm always right.
There you go.
Nice. I like that. That.
No doubt.
A little humility, less than a fortnight. Love it.
Yep.
Well, thank everyone for coming on. Peace.
Peace.
I appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Take care.
Peace.